Hi, I'm Amanda Lannert, CEO of Jellyvision, and I have assembled a team of amazing panelists to talk about reimagining work, productivity, leadership, and collaboration in a post-COVID world. And obviously, over the last 3 months, there really been a one-two punch. Not just COVID sending everyone into their homes where we're not sure when we're going to be able to leave, but then in the United States, the protests in response to the deaths of so many Black Americans, that really thinking about inclusivity and connectivity has never been more important. I've got people who have amazing experiences working from home, leading from home, making it all happen from home. And I would love for them to just start by introducing themselves. Hey, Eric, would you kick us off, please?
Sure, no, happy to. Thank you, Amanda. Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Gilpin. I lead all of our customer-facing teams for Upwork. And Upwork today is the world's largest digital talent platform. We have close to 20 million professionals around the world that are connecting with companies of all sizes to provide access to high-quality skills. Today, Upwork has close to 2,000 team members that are supporting, our efforts for our customers in 800 cities around the world. We're headquartered in Santa Clara, California. We have offices both in the Bay Area and Chicago, but the majority of our team works in a remote way today, understanding that we sell, remote talent solutions for our companies. And so happy to be here, and thanks for putting together this panel.
Thank you. Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Muehl. I also work at Jellyvision. I work closely with Amanda. I'm the VP of Implementation. So my team sets up the software once a customer purchases it. And I have been remote in Austin, Texas for a little over 10 years with Jellyvision for most of that time. And really happy to be here to talk about how to function, operate, and scale when you have everyone working from home.
Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon Haighton-Williams. I'm the CEO of Adaptavist. We are one of the world's largest Atlassian partners, also a Slack partner as well. So we help small, medium, and large companies with collaboration, working together, figuring out how to get more work done, I guess, is the best way to look at it. We as a company, we have a lot of people who work remotely, but we also have a lot of office people. So we have a very long history of kind of that hybrid model of in the office and out of the office.
So let's dive in and start with Simon. So one of the big things about COVID-19 is it went from some people in and some people out to everyone out and trying to do their best, sometimes with a child on their lap. What's one thing about a pandemic and the resulting implications on work that surprised you the most?
I guess it surprised me how quickly, even in our world where we're quite used to remote working, how quickly everyone adapted. There's a degree of resilience in people that, when pressure comes on people, they're able to adapt and pick up and respond to it well.
So themes of resilience. Awesome. Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I would plus one both of those. I mean, very similar at Upwork. We have the majority of our team members that work remotely, but we do have a lot of folks that do frequent our offices both in Chicago and in California. And I would echo that sentiment of how fast it moved and how quickly everyone kind of embraced change and kind of saw the world in the reality that it was, and then the resiliency to rebound. The other thing that really shocked me, understanding leading customer-facing teams and having a lot of different interactions with clients, was how fast they rebounded too. I think everyone had, this kind of point of shock as we kind of settled into the new normal, and we were concerned about kind of customer interaction and communication with our clients, where we would be on site a lot, and to see that resiliency on our customers as well, embracing this kind of new way of partnering together and working together was something that we were really excited to see, and was something we've been able to maximize.
I would say surprising is how quickly people shifted to looking at the long game. I think many of us hoped that this would be a very temporary situation, but clearly it's not. And I love to see my team starting to think about what is work going to look like 6 months, a year from now if things aren't changing, and how can we better support our customers. That was really great to see, and also just surprising how quickly that happened.
So I'm someone who rarely works from home. I try to be in the office. If I'm not visiting customers, I'm out and about. And one of the biggest surprises I had is how much better Zoom and other technologies work when everyone is remote versus one person's remote and staring at the back of people's heads who are in a conference room talking to each other. And it's kind of making me think that as we have people start to go back to the office, we should always sort of bring your laptop, look at the camera, and still have the sort of like, Zoom camera first, because it allows everyone to participate on equal footing. That may mean that we're going to burn everybody out from Zoom fatigue in perpetuity, but there are definitely some lessons learned when everyone's remote. As companies start to have some people go back to work, what are lessons learned from COVID and this lockdown that you'll be bringing back with you to change the way work happens? Anyone can jump in.
So I'd kind of endorse what you said there about, you shouldn't treat, or there's a risk that you treat remote people as second-class citizens, or you treat office people as second-class citizens. And I think you have to be very deliberate in making sure that isn't the case. So, you go to a meeting room and you all have your laptop open and you Zoom, rather than treat the poor person who's sat in a different country or working from home in a second-class kind of way.
I think we've all learned that same lesson, that like if anyone's going to be remote, we're all going to be remote in that kind of communication. And I think using Zoom and other collaboration tools, like it really has like leveled the playing field for communication and provided better access. I mean, we saw that examples of where we would have all hands meetings where we would come together in our offices, but then have, folks dialing in all around the world. And I think one thing as we work on kind of our return policy that we call back to better, like how do we maximize, both things we had in the past and the new things we've been able to learn and build. And that's one big thing that we will continue, is that if anyone's remote, we'll all be remote on that communication style. And I feel like it's been something that's been super effective for us as we've learned to embrace it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I would
add better documentation. It's something that we've learned is incredibly important. We are not there to turn to each other and say, what was that again? So the importance of having really clear documentation, clear meeting agendas, meeting notes for every meeting has really helped our team function.
That's exactly what I want to get at now, which is like diving into that a little bit deeper. It's not just doing meetings from Zoom anymore. I hear sort of trends around more asynchronous work. Can you talk to me about some of the things that have changed from a communication perspective? Cadence, format, modality, those kinds of things. Like, is there anything that's starting to work better with people being remote, that these tactics that should be brought back versus just like Zoom first? How should meetings change? With Zoom fatigue, like how should we be rethinking meetings? Anyone got some insight there?
I mean, we do, and something we've always done is for certain groups of people. We're big Slack users, clearly. We have open channels, and so some things just don't need a meeting. Some things are best served by continuous communication. So our executive team, for example, we have an open channel, and most of our communication goes through there. And our weekly executive meeting ends up being kind of a coffee and not much to talk about, because we've dealt with things in real time, which actually lets you go faster as a business and not have people leaving things hanging around.
I'd say a couple things. One, I mean, definitely the frequency of communication has increased in a big way, both at the leadership team level, even to kind of the all hands communication that we have with the teams. We've also seen the meetings shorten. And so, 1 hour meetings have gone to 50-minute meetings, and 30-minute meetings have gone to 25-minute meetings. And so we can get away from our machines in between. And we've also tried to insert just phone calls with team members versus just Zoom calls as a part of that. In addition to, Alex, to your point, agendas and documenting ahead of time as a part of it. The one thing that I think that we didn't do very much of, and that will continue, our CEO, Hayden Brown, and all of our kind of functional team members have been doing video email updates every single week to our team members. And instead of sending an email with like an OKR readout of what happened, we'll create a short video in addition to that we'll send out, especially with everything going on with COVID and a lot of the racial injustice things that you mentioned earlier, Amanda. Like, we feel like that kind of video empathy, if you will, has allowed us to have better connections with our team members.
Yeah,
do you think that will continue? Once the restrictions are lifted, do you think that kind of like shorter video content will continue asynchronously consumed versus a meeting?
I think so. Based on the feedback that we've gotten, we use Glint for kind of our employee engagement scores, and we get a lot of positive kind of sentiment and feedback on these kind of short little bursts that really kind of connect with our team members. And so I'm 100% confident we'll continue that.
Awesome. Alex.
I would say adding optional to meetings that you do not have to be at is really important. And we also had trouble at the beginning channeling communication in the right way. So there's a lot of information flying around COVID updates that needed to get into our product, coming from every direction, and putting those in a specific place and saying at this meeting, we're going to lump all these things together so that everyone knows what's going on. I think was really helpful. We call it COVID Corner, and we have it every week. So you know that's where you're going to get that piece of information.
Alex, I know you've done a lot of, interesting ideas around, management and communication, but let's dive in. How does the role of managers have to change when you can't check in and see how people are doing on a daily basis? You've been doing it for 10 years and you are definitely someone who has the beat on all of your people. How does management work when you're remote?
I think good remote managers are excellent active listeners. People are going to want to talk to you, especially in these times. You might be one of the few folks that someone is going to see in a day. So they're going to want to vent and they're going to want to brainstorm, and you need to listen. You'll want to solve their problems and you'll be distracted by whatever's going on around you, but you really need to sit and listen more. And I think that's incredibly difficult, but also incredibly important to keep your folks moving forward and to keep them productive.
Awesome. Anyone else have specific strategies around how managers can be effective in fully remote situations?
So again, I endorse what Alex said. I think particularly at the moment, people want that time to vent, and in some ways it feels like unproductive time, but actually you need to give people the safety valve to be upset about the things that are happening in the world or how they feel, and sort of 10 minutes of that, take a deep breath, and they kind of probably feel more ready for work. But I think more generally, as a manager, you just have to be more deliberate. And so those opportunities to bump into people over coffee and to chat to people around the office, they're gone. You need to be more deliberate. You need to find the opportunities to call someone for 10 minutes, even if it's just to say hello. And I think it's much harder to be a manager remotely because you have to make the effort rather than passively allow it to come to you.
I think that's great. So are you using Slack for that? You're actually phone calling people, Zoom, how are you reaching out? Does it just depend on the person?
Yeah, so we use Slack and we use Zoom for most things. We also have Skype as well. So I'm a big believer in being wherever the people are. And so I have loads of people that WhatsApp message me, and we use Facebook and every kind of channel under the sun, really. With modern technology, it's no big deal. Your phone beeps and it doesn't really matter where the messages come from, and you kind of respond to it.
Do you actually make a list of people and make sure you're checking in? Is it like that organized and deliberate, or is it just more listening for themes? Like I'm serious. Like this is what I'm doing poorly right now.
I mean it's a bit of both. So worth 300 and some people. I speak to probably the 10 people who are super close to me almost daily. I then speak to a bunch of people who are a little bit further away from me, and I try and make a point of speaking to people who are working on projects I'm interested in or areas I'm interested in. And rather than go and speak to the manager, I'll go and speak to somebody else in the team, or just try and generally, in the same way you would in the office, put yourself around. It's the same way online. And my experience has been that most people are happy to have someone to talk to, and just it's not really that much different than having a coffee with someone. It's just the little slight awkwardness of doing it digitally. Once you get over that, I think it's fine.
Eric?
Well, I would say I probably have more examples of how not to do it right than do it right at this point. I think
let's have two of those. Let's go. What are people doing wrong?
For us, we have a lot of newer leaders, meaning they're new into leadership, and it is really hard to adjust. Sometimes you feel like productivity has to be visible, and we've had a lot of our leaders that have had a hard time adjusting to kind of building that trust and kind of confidence in our team members being able to work remotely. And we've had to rely a lot on, different types of, kind of productivity tools to kind of build that confidence with our leadership team that our teams can be effective and they can execute on their goals in this new environment. And that's actually been really, I noticed my internet's a little unstable here as we have a little weather.
We heard you. You were tracking.
And so, I think, by using things like Slack and Zoom and other things that we have from a kind of, customer relationship management tool standpoint, we've actually been able to see that our teams, while they do miss the kind of collaboration, learning and development, skill building that they get, there are ways for us to still maximize productivity in this way, especially since our customers are engaging this way. But I'll tell you that we have made a purposeful investment in more manager training right now for all team members, not just with the kind of empathy we need to build around the fact that we're all at home with our kids and shelter in place, but in addition to all of the things that are going on with the racial injustice and just, as we continue to kind of grow and invest in our diversity and inclusion and belonging programs, like how do we continue to invest that learning for our managers so that we can meet people where they are and at least be available and more empathetic in those scenarios. And so we looked at it as an opportunity to double down on our learning and development, especially for our management tracks, because there's a lot to navigate right now, and it's definitely an opportunity to grow.
So I'll kick this one off to Alex. We've talked a lot about one-to-one. This has been, how to check in, build relationships, listen, be there for people. How do you do it at one-to-many? One of the things I miss is I do have my, group of people that I talk to on almost a daily basis, but just beyond that core thing, as a leader, how are you driving camaraderie, connectivity at scale when you can't walk around and see people and run into them?
Right. I think a big factor is what was the level of camaraderie before COVID? Because if you didn't like your coworkers before, you sure aren't going to like them now. Luckily, I have an incredibly lovely team, and they are really invested in staying connected with each other. So I think a few things, Slack, obviously that's been mentioned a few times. We do some regular call outs in Slack, like, hey, what are you doing to take care of yourself? Or show us a picture of you when you were a kid, those kinds of things. I always try to join big team meetings a few minutes early. So as people join on, you can do a little bit of the casual talk before you get into the meeting. That's always been really helpful for me. And then we're a team that loves events. So we've just taken everything virtually. We did a virtual spelling bee recently, virtual trivia night. You mentioned earlier things that don't work. We tried virtual coffee, and that was a dud. I think people just needed that time for working or something else. But just doing what you did in a new way.
Anyone else got stuff to add?
Yeah, so we did the virtual coffee as well, but it kind of worked for us to an extent. It's not a mandatory thing, so it's a drop-in kind of thing, and it kind of worked for some people and not for others. And I think that's part of it. There isn't one size fits all. So we've done a lot of we're a fairly tight-knit team anyway, and everybody knows each other. And to your point, if you don't like your co-workers before, you're not going to like them afterwards. We're quite lucky in the fact that most people get on quite well. But as we're here now, we're having a Zoom bash, which was organised from the ground up by people, and there's a Zoom session with a live DJ rapping and stuff. There is another session with some people playing acoustic guitar. There's another session with people playing picture. It's because it's here it's Friday night. It's kind of Friday lunchtime in the US, and so you can flip it from one to the other. There's 50 people listening to the people playing acoustic guitar right now. There'll be 70 people listening to that, and it's kind of cool.
Kind of cool. Zoom bash is what you call it. You call it a Zoom bash.
Yeah, so we do design sprints, and we did an internal design sprint as to what kind of event people. I wasn't involved in it, so we did design sprint for what people wanted, and they wanted music, and some people wanted somewhere quiet. So that means you have multiple. It's all technology you've got lying around to do. It's most of these things are about culture. The technology is kind of easy. We've all got Zoom and Skype and Slack and all those kind of tools. It's getting the people motivated to do the things they want to do and not forcing people to do it. You can't force people to go and watch a DJ, but it's Friday night. There's some folks sat in the back garden drinking a glass of wine watching a DJ. There's other folks in the US kind of watching it whilst they're doing some work, and it's flexibility and trying to do what people want.
Simon, is that your initiative as a CEO? Is that a grassroots initiative? Can I just ask, like, really specifically, these amazingly creative ideas, who's the instigator?
This particular one was actually the team that does design sprints. We're trying to demonstrate how powerful design sprints were and decided to do a party. We do other stuff. So we do, I'm trying to think of other things we did. So one of the things I was surprised that was really successful is when the lockdown first came, we decided to get Disney Plus for everyone. So all the people with kids who are going to be working from home and have their kids there, let's buy Disney Plus for them because you've all, and it costs like what, $50 a head or something like that. And actually, you then just do it for everyone. And the impact of what for a company is a relatively simple thing is huge. And and people talk about what they're watching, and it gives people a bit of a break. And it's not about squeezing more out of people. It's about trying to make them feel part of it, and trying to make their lives a little bit easier.
And make them feel seen. They must feel so seen. Every parent must have been like, thank you for understanding. I have kids in my lap all the time, and it's hard. I love this.
And I think the other thing is that, and it's all culture, is the tolerance. So you're talking about the kids coming in. I think that in this world where we have kids working home, you have to just be tolerant of that stuff, and you have to smile and you have to enjoy it. It's not, we're all doing work. It's all kind of important work, but kids are important as well. And the world is as it is, and you just have to have tolerance and flexibility for those things.
Yeah, I mean, balance is kind of out the window. It's rhythm now, like work and home are coinciding at the same time. And it's, I would say we definitely learned the virtual coffee and virtual happy hour lesson too. They were kind of novel in the beginning, and then they burned out really fast. And we've tried to, especially if you've been on Zoom all day, the last thing you want to do is like more Zoom, unless it's some sort of staged experience. But I think we have a very strong culture and recognition culture. And so we've tried to like replicate a lot of the things that we had. So like we had a, bring your kids to work day Zoom call early on. That was, the normal time of the year where we would have done it like locally, but we were able to replicate it. We've started a lot of learning series for our employees where we've had external speakers come in. In fact, we were on a town hall yesterday with 5 other companies, and so we had almost like 10,000 attendees and different CEOs kind of talking about what's going on. We had an Upwork talent show recently, which I thought was really neat, where people submitted and performed, and we had our leadership team and a number of team members that are participating. And so we're trying to understand the Zoom fatigue is real. Like if we are going to stage experiences, how do we make it seem very experiential and fun so that we drive high engagement.
So super creative. Alex, do you want to talk about what is it, most okayest week ever?
Sure. So before the world upended, we had every other Friday on Slack, the team posts best week ever. So we kind of just post a picture or a little story about what went really well for someone that week. Obviously, it was really difficult to do when everyone's in varying states of depression. So we changed it to world's okayest week ever. And then people said like, here is what I'm doing to survive in these times, which is really nice outlet for folks. And also it's lovely to see what people are doing to take care of themselves. It's really inspiring.
I don't think I was supposed to find that funny, but I find that very funny. I find that just like the bar is, it's just here and we're just going to be, I find that very funny. Particularly, we're recording Zoom meetings all the time. Mm-hmm. We've been asking people to turn on their cameras. So we have the ability for both asynchronous consumption. We have Slack, we have all these things. What are the right techniques? Should we stop asking people to turn on their Zoom cameras and just assume that content can be consumed whenever, wherever you want? If you have questions, you'll ask. Like, what are the best practices around the use of tech to enable productivity?
So I think it depends on the people. And again, I think, if you're having a meeting with some new people and it's a more formal meeting, then the camera should be on because you have the eye contact and all of that kind of stuff. If you're working with a close-knit group of people who work together all the time, you should probably figure between you what works best. And it might be voice only, it might be camera, it might be, you might want to listen to music together. And I think the best rule is to do the thing that works and to not assume that one size fits all again.
I would say the one thing that we learned is like you got to get away from the computer, and so we're really trying to like encourage more just audio calls. With all of us being stuck at home and not having access to exercise like we used to, like we're really trying to encourage short meetings, to get out, walk around, and have those, phone calls versus being, just strapped to whatever you use for a desk at this point. That has been really helpful. Just trying to keep the blood moving and then kind of change it up. And I've even gotten feedback that I say connectivity, not necessarily from a technical standpoint, but just from talking to one another, like the phone has been really helpful versus just doing the video chat where you do have, some people that prefer, to have the camera off versus, we encourage people to turn it on. And I think, by using the telephone more, it seems like a little kind of archaic, but it's been really helpful for us.
I really
Yeah,
like it. Switching from all company meetings in a giant room where I get sort of like dead stares. When I switch to all on Zoom and people have cameras on, there's something sort of weird that people feel like they need to nod more to the camera to show you that they're actually listening. So I get a lot more positive information from a sea of faces and little squares than I get in a room. And maybe it's like the content has changed, or maybe it's just like the dynamic is different. But I feel like I get a lot more of this where people are like trying to communicate, they're still hanging on, even though it's remote. I don't know, Alex, what about you? What rules about technology should govern remote work?
Yeah, I mean, as my husband starts vacuuming in the background right now, I would say do what works for you. At the beginning, we were definitely cameras on, focus, but that just doesn't work for people. So if you need to turn it off, that's okay. Do the work, and as long as you're doing the work and staying engaged, you got to do what you got to do.
I think to your point, Amanda, there has been, like, we've been really excited about the level of engagement that we do get on the Zoom calls. Like when you do live Q&A, it tends to be a little crickets every now and then. But I think using some of the Q&A and polling functions that we have, we also use another tool called Slido that allows the team to kind of vote up questions as a part of it. I feel like we have seen a lot more activity and engagement than we saw in live settings by leveraging some of those tools.
we were doing sort of a fortnightly or bi-weekly all hands at the beginning of this. And after 2 or 3 of those, at the end of the Q&A, we decided to tell everyone to unmute and speak at the same time for the last 2 minutes of the call. And there were 250 people speaking at the same time. And it's the most beautiful sound you've ever heard. There were people laughing. There were some people actually cried, and people could hear their colleagues. And it was a cacophony. And you but phrases and words kind of felt. And doing slightly odd things like that kind of help bring you together. It's not. You can't run a meeting like that, but just the sound is a kind of a beautiful sound.
Can I work at Adaptavist? Are you hiring?
Always.
I think that would make me laugh so hard. And when you're kind of starved for human interaction, the idea of so much of it, there's no signal through the noise. I could see that being like profoundly comforting.
2 minutes of it was just like, it was kind of a fun thing we did because everyone had been sat there on mute and doing Q&A, and it was just a really kind of moving thing.
Yeah, you are definitely, you guys, this panel is definitely dropping some new ideas here. It's amazing. I want to shift. There have been so many themes about caretaking, self-care, checking in, listening, mental health. Zoom fatigue is real, and these are trying times. And I think we're also all being more honest about not having a great day every now and then. If money were no object at all, what would you be investing in to take care of the mental health of your teams?
A cruise ship, and put everyone on a cruise ship with no COVID. I know that's a slightly glib answer. I don't think money is really the object. It's most, again, it's kind of a boring old answer. It's about people. And I think building a culture where people have time for each other. So I think, one of my bits of guidance to our folks is always just be nice to each other, and a whole bunch of problems are solved by just being nice to each other and recognizing that the person in the little square screen in front of you is a human being and has life and stuff going on and things anyway. Just be nice to each other. I think and it's not a money thing, if I could wave a magic wand and just make sure everybody was nice to each other all the time, that's what I do, which is kind of cheating with your question, but it's the best answer I've got.
I don't think it's cheeky at all. I think it's probably profoundly on the nose and shocking that it isn't easily done. Eric, what about you?
Mine's going to be probably like a little biased towards me, but if I could solve school and childcare, I would. I've got 2 little ones here, and my wife, she works full time as well, and we have a lot of team members around the world doing the same thing. And then I think everyone deeply loves their kids, but the not just the time, the challenge of being all together, but I think the learning opportunity for them, like just watching my little ones, and I think that they have challenges, and they yearn really hard to get back with their friends as well, and I feel like for both parties, the parents and the kids, I would fix that. So.
And Alex, I know it's a cheat because I know you and I've worked with you for a decade, and I know how well you take care of your employees. But if our budgets were no object, what would you do?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I would say space. I mean, some of the folks on my team are in these tiny studio apartments 24/7, and it's just got to be so grating. I mean, I have kids too, and I know that's an issue, but yeah, I would add just a large plot of land where folks could go and be free.
Absolutely. I think we have same thing. We have kind of people younger, earlier, and they go live in cities and live in downtown New York. And I'm lucky I live out at the edge of London, so I've got a garden. And I'm also looking. My daughter's 12, and 12 is the perfect age because she doesn't have any exams coming up. She can kind of look after herself a little bit. And I see some of our other folks who've got like a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old thinks, "Great, my parents are here and they're here to play." And of course they're going to think that. It's just so much tougher. So all the people with young kids and actually older kids as well. So there's if you've got 16, 17-year-olds who can't go out, that's problematic as well. So I wish all the children were suddenly 12.
That would be really hard to pay for with money. That'd be tough. All right, coming down the home stretch here, last big question. And I'd like this to not just be in response to COVID. It would be with your experience with remote work, with your experience with tools and technology allowing people to work anywhere. What do we need to unlearn about work? What mindsets and acquired behaviors are going to limit future success? What do we have to unlearn about work? Alex.
I would echo something Eric said earlier. It's really about balance. We have this idea that the people who are most successful are the ones that work the longest hours and are always available, and that just does not work in a world like this. I think the people that are most successful on my team are those that have a great balance. We're able to step away from the computer and find time to take care of themselves. And I think that has to be a fundamental shift. And success is not measured by the hours you work or how fast you respond to a Slack.
Eric?
I mean, this is going to sound a little selfish to Upwork, so forgive me. But one of the biggest challenges we've had as an organization is getting other companies to embrace remote talent. And I think for the longest time, organizations of all sizes have always said quality has to sit right next to them, and they need to physically see the talent that they're engaging with. And I think understanding all the things that we're learning with the COVID crisis, I really hope that companies continue to embrace this model. That there are wonderfully talented people all around the world, and unfortunately, opportunities aren't always equally distributed. And so I think by kind of leveling the playing field here, hopefully companies can build a new muscle around remote work strategies and help connect and create economic opportunities for people all around the world.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. I think that the slight variant I talk about with that is so we as a culture tend not to be a start at 9, finish at 5 kind of culture. Because our clients are fairly distributed, it's much more spread throughout. And if people want to take 3 hours off in the middle of the day and then work later into the evening because that works for them because of childcare, it's that flexibility about when and how you work, and pushing the decision making, the empowerment of that down to the person who's doing the work. I mean, I'm really poorly positioned to decide when somebody can go on vacation or if they can take 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the day. The person who's involved with the work, as much as you can, should be in a position to help make those decisions, which normally results in better outcomes for the client as well. And so that flexibility of work, and I think increasingly work fits in around life rather than this is work, this is not work, in clear blocks. I think that is the future. The problem with that, of course, is that it's a responsibility that people have to kind of manage that they don't kind of start working crazy amounts of time. But that flexibility to do it, I think, is an empowering thing that is probably inevitable anyway. And so the sooner people can get good at that, and we build systems to help support people do that, the better.
The three of you work at progressive companies. Clearly, you're doing modern tech, forward progressive things, and you're progressive companies. I think one of the greatest challenges is going to be teaching the typical rank and file managers of large companies, large established companies, that measuring productivity is not a factor of hours worked and high thought labor. It's about quality and quantity of output, which, by the way, is so much harder, which is probably why we don't all do it right now. It's just easier to count hours in the office. And I think COVID is just gonna make that obsolete, or at least I hope. That's my hope, is all this discomfort allows us to really realize, FaceTime does not in fact yield productivity. Thank you, everybody, for joining in on a sort of a final speed round. If you had to write the definitive book on the future of work post-pandemic, what would the title be? Start with Alex.
I would say your pet is now your favorite coworker post-COVID world.
My pet is also my favorite child, and I actually have human children, so just putting it out there. Eric.
I would say the future of work is flexible. I think Simon nailed it. It's the whole 9 to 5 structure was born over 100 years ago, and as work continues to evolve, we have not evolved that model. I think understanding with the rise of project-based work and remote work, I think work models and constructs are going to be a lot more flexible moving forward, and I think that is something that's going to be hard to embrace and overcome in the short term, but I'm confident that we'll come out better for it.
And Simon.
Yeah, I agree with Eric. I think I might call my book "Learn to Love Your Work." So a lot of what you hear and a lot of the kind of traditional thinking about work is a thing you do under duress just to get paid, and that's the only reason you do it. And I think trying to build a world where people are doing work they enjoy and feel empowered by and actually want to do, it kind of changes the balance of that a little bit. If you hate your job, then of course you're going to want to do it as little as possible and then stop and have very kind of hard lines. If you enjoy your job and you're solving problems and you're feeling empowered by it and doing something that's good, then that blending together of work and not work becomes easier because you're enjoying it and you're owning it and you want to be part of it. I think learn to love your work. It's not about being a workaholic. It's about doing something you like to do.
Amazing. Eric, Alex, Simon, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and perspective and really killer ideas. It's embarrassing. I'm like, let's do a Zoom happy hour, and I show up with my bowl full of wine, which I drink. I mean, I'm gonna do like a Zoom bash. My team better watch out. We have a Zoom bash coming soon. These ideas were incredible. It really is, I think, a testament to the creativity of workforces and teams. I know Alex's team firsthand. It's a thing of beauty when you actually let humans be humans. What crazy
That's all about.
things they do.
People are still people, even if there's a computer in between them.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.